Hi guys. Yay. Welcome back everybody. Big waves hello. Imagining waves hello in return. I'm gonna give everybody like a minute to settle in or two. See if we can't pull some other people in here before we get started. But I'm excited. If you notice today, oh, you can still hear the hummingbirds, by the way. So if you hear like a that noise, did you just hear it? That's the hummingbirds. They sound like the golden snitch to me. So I'm just sharing with you that that's what I think. You'll of course hear the cacophony of other birds all over the place here, but that weird noise is the hummingbirds. I have feeders kind of right above these two fingers, and so they fly by all the time. Maybe we'll get. Sometimes they do a really close flyby, so you might see them. Sometimes they come really, really close. It's scary. Before we get started, I don't know. Can you guys see this? Let's see. I'll turn a little bit more this way. Can you see the trees? I want to almost get out of it a little bit. Okay, so those are the aspens that I told you guys. We watched them bloom, right? They were sort of coming to be. And when I first started taking you guys outside, I shared with you sort of how much I love them. And they're like my favorite springtime stem. I love the color of them. And their leaves are two different colors. So on the top, they're one color and they're another green underneath. So I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to try and like get them to be the focus. But in the wind, they are glorious. I mean, when the wind picks up and they start to flitter, it's really the coolest thing ever. Sorry, I should really stop doing this stuff, and I should probably get a proper camera. Oh, look, hummingbird feeder. Kind of want to leave it there. All right. Anyway, you guys, here we go. Let's settle into some proper groupness now. Oh, low. All right, you guys. So those are the aspens over there. They turned beautiful. I don't have my sunglasses on today because, believe it or not, it is overcast here. It's almost always sunny in Colorado all the time. And we had plenty of sun this morning, but the clouds have rolled in and we get these really amazing thunderstorms. And one of my favorite things is to kind of sit and watch the storm come in and hear the thunder. And visually, I love the color of a really good storm cloud on these like fresh green leaves, like the spring green of leaves. It's still pretty later on in the summer when the leaves are a darker green, but I just love this particular color and I just like the way it looks with everything. In any case, so I thought I'd share a little bit of that with you. And I decided, I know I told you guys I was going to go downstairs this week and do it from underneath, down on floor level instead of tree level. But as I mentioned, storm clouds are rolling in. And I thought, well, what happens if in the middle, and it will happen like this in Colorado, if in the middle of our little groupie here and in the middle of a deep thought, it just starts pouring raining on my computer, which would be devastating. So I have opted to stay upstairs again this week because it has a roof and we're safe from the rain, me and my computer. So I will next week, hopefully with the weather being compliant, I will go and do this from downstairs. Okay. Yay. All right, we're about 3 minutes in, so I think everybody's kind of gotten here. There you are in the chat. Hi, Nancy. Hey, Bill. Hi, Miriam, Karen. Good to see you guys out there hanging out and joining me today. So I'm really enjoying, again, I'm just going to say it every week until I stop enjoying it. I'm really enjoying our little support groupie thing that we have going on here. I love doing this live stream so much. I can't even tell you guys. Like, it's so fun to me to think about topics and to think about parts of my life that I haven't yet shared with you. And I don't know, topics we haven't discussed yet and things that I worry about, and I don't know where to share them. And so the live stream is working out really nice for me. I hope it's working out really good for you guys. And we're just going to keep going until we either run out of things to talk about or you guys get bored and it's just me talking to me. When it gets there, we'll stop. But for now, let's just keep going, I think. I think we're really I'm re-exploring a lot of topics that I haven't talked about like publicly in a bit, and it's been fun. And that's going to be another day like that today. This is just like, let's just talk about it, you know? So today's topic, I threw it into Neurodiversity Newsstand, the Facebook group, just to get an idea of, I had a few ideas for topics, just to get an idea of what the leading topic was. And also whether or not you guys wanted to talk about today's topic together or to be broken apart. So the final results were that everybody, almost unanimously who voted, really wanted to hear about, about burnout and shutdown. So we're going to talk about that today, or rather shutdown and burnout. I like to say it in that order because to me, that's the order they happen in. So, but I digress, and we'll talk about that. So here we go. Burnout, shutdown and burnout. I think we need to talk about them. It's an important topic. I think if you are an autistic adult, you are familiar with them. Maybe the first few times you experienced them, you didn't have a name for them, but they happened, right? And then post-diagnosis, here we are, we have a name for everything, and all of a sudden a truck comes by, but not that bad, right? So then, we kind of have to deal with it, and how do we face it going forward. So like, I've had burnout and shutdown before, both of them. I have not had burnout since my diagnosis, so it's 8 years in running, and I'm pretty proud of that. But I have definitely had shutdowns in there. In that 8 years. So I think we'll talk about them a little bit. I'll describe them, and then I'm going to share kind of my experiences. I'll tell you, it'll be like a story time a little bit, tell you a little bit about my experiences with them, and then kind of how I think about it, right? So burnout, shutdown, right? So to me, shutdown happens first. To me, shutdown is a warning for burnout. It is one of the warnings for burnout to me. But absolutely, that's what shutdown is. So let's define them a little bit. When we talk about shutdown in terms of autism, we usually mean, right, that you're feeling so overwhelmed, so exhausted, so everything that you just can't anymore. And that's it. Not can't something, but just can't anymore, right? And you literally just shut down. And for us, most of us, a good chunk of us, that looks like either retreating inside and being very quiet and alone and isolated. And for others, it may look like locking themselves up in their room. It may look different for all of us, but it's the point that you reach and you're like, I just can't even anymore today. I just can't. I can't adult. I can't human today anymore. I'm done. And that's what when shutdown happens. So for me, when I have shutdown occur, I become selectively mute. I tend to lose my English, like I lose my language skills a little bit, the connection between what I'm thinking about and getting it out of my mouth, like making my physical mouth do that. And so I definitely get selectively mute when I'm going to go into shutdown. I tend to lose my appetite. I tend to either be sleeping a lot more or a lot less, like not being able to sleep. And suddenly I start to feel like I just don't give a crap anymore. Not even that I don't give a crap. It's like I can't give a crap anymore. I just literally, I can't anymore. And to me, that's what shutdown is. And I think you can have versions of shutdown. So like I can have short-term shutdown where I've had a day where the day itself has just been so overwhelming, so long, exhausting, taxing, using spoons, etc. And then something happens and it is the last straw. I didn't know what was going to happen. It wasn't in my control, whatever. And shutdown occurs. I go home, I recharge, I go to sleep, I wake up in the morning. I'm probably still feeling the effects the next day, but I'm not stopped in my tracks for more than a day or two. Shutdown for me can also be a little bit longer. It can last 1 to 2 weeks sometimes for me, depending on how much I can recharge. So like if I go into shutdown and I can recharge the next day, take the day off, do nothing, no problem. I'll recoup a lot faster from shutdown. But if I still have obligations that I'm pushing to meet at the same time I'm having a shutdown, that shutdown is extended. I think it takes longer then to kind of heal from that. So that to me is what shutdown is. Burnout is to me the next phase. It's like burnout is shutdown on steroids. That's what it is. So once you've had either an episode of shutdown and not paid attention, or you've had multiple episodes of shutdown and you haven't paid attention, you eventually get to burnout. And for me, what burnout looks like, it's hard to describe it in words, but it feels like you hear your brain crack. That's what I want. There's like a moment that happens and your brain kind of, you can almost viscerally hear your brain like implode, and you're just done. It's like a switch almost, and it's like all the oxygen leaves my body and all the everything, and I just can't. Like I can't even be me anymore. I can't care. I can't care about anything because I cared too much for too long, right? And that comes to me. That comes when I've tried to sustain a lifestyle that is not in alignment with who I am, that doesn't work with who I am and what my struggles are. I will try, if I try to sustain that for any period of time and don't take care of myself well along the way, burnout will come. If I don't face head on, hey Carrie, welcome to us. And if I don't kind of deal with whatever it is that I'm dealing with, that's how burnout occurs. And so this is something that used to sneak up on me sometimes, because I would be like overly emotionally taxed in a situation, but not realize it because of interoception difficulties and alexithymia and all that fun stuff. So I wasn't getting the signals, like I wasn't getting to shut down, and I would just get to burnout somehow. I would just arrive there. And it looks, I think, to a lot of other people like we just give up. I think that's the way it looks when we go into burnout. That we've just gone, that's it, I'm done. And we do that, I'm done. But it's like, not I'm done and I can't try again, but I'm done right now for a long time. And I need some charging to do. And so burnout to me can, sorry about that, burnout to me can last, to me it's longer than shutdown. Shutdown is short term, burnout is long term. It took a really long time to get to burnout, and it takes a really long time to get out of burnout. That's the truth of it, right? And it's an awful feeling. It's almost like a level beyond depression, because the depression is there, but then there's other stuff that you can't do anymore either, and that you don't have the desire to do. And it's almost like becoming a shell of yourself, and just sort of ghosting through life. Is how burnout feels to me. And like there's no amount of sleep that will catch me up. There's no amount of anything. And so that to me is what burnout is. And even as I talk about it, I struggle to talk about it because it's so heartbreaking to go through burnout. And a lot of people want to know why we have burnout, where does it come from? And to me, it's always like it's trying to sustain beyond your capabilities, trying to sustain beyond your desires also, and working in opposition of your needs and wants will also do it to us. And I think it's a human being condition. Like, I don't think it's not a human condition. I think all humans have moments of shutdown and burnout. It's just that ours are so magnified and so much longer and so much bigger than the shutdowns and burnouts that other people have, right? You might have heard the term like midlife crisis, right? Or people say they have a nervous breakdown or whatever. It's sort of like those are guys' terms for shutdown and burnout to me. And they're more rare for non-autistics. They just are. They're not taxed in the same way that we are. Their brains aren't taxed in the same way we are, and it's not quite as important for them to be aware of their spoons and where they put their energy. It's just, it seems they're, how to say this? It seems like they're simpler creatures, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, really. Maybe a little bit, but not really. So yeah. And yes, potato bugging from the world. I love that, Carrie. Right. And so it's like, that's what happens. And it's sad, right? Because the road to burnout was long, right? And there were lots of periods along the way where you could have stopped it and helped yourself. But that's the part of it that's really sad, is because when you're really in it like that, you don't see it. It's hard to catch, right? It's hard to pay attention to. So, yeah, that's sort of how I feel about burnout. I want to share with you guys some tips and tricks and some ideas. I don't know what order to tell. If I should tell you my story first or then give you, well, let's tell you my story first. We'll see how long I go. I'll try not to, right? So I figure I'll share with you guys my very last episode of Burnout and kind of what happened, because it was my last episode of Burnout was began 3 years before my autism diagnosis and ended with my autism diagnosis. So it's pretty exact for me to kind of know that count. But somewhere in the fall, in my 33rd year, I was working at my very last job for anybody else. No, that's not true. My very last real job, right? And the very last time that I would really try, but I didn't know it, right? So I had for years been a bartender in Manhattan. I worked nights. It was great. I was opposite rush hour. All of that stuff was cool. And I did it for that reason, right? Because the 9 to 5 wasn't working for me. I'd already been through a period of burnout with a 9 to 5 experience. And I'd been trying to do that for so long, but it didn't work. It was too much peopling. And if I did bartending and I did opposite schedules of most of the city, at least there were less people around, right? And bartending was great because there was this big giant block of wood between me and other people that I could keep there, and it was supposed to be there, and I could socialize with them in bits and pieces at my leisure and just always be busy. So that's was the job that I was working. But then all of a sudden I realized, I really didn't feel like spending the money on travel anymore, and I really didn't feel like spending the time at travel anymore. And so I started to look for jobs more close to home. So I found a job that was more of a management position, like a bar manager, and also there were times bar restaurant manager, because there were times when I was also on the food floor. And that's what I was doing closer to my house. And then I kept getting like shit on with the schedule. I kept getting stuck every weekend, working both weekend nights. And it's good in some sense because that's when you make your money. But as a manager, you're not behind the bar. You're not making that money, and you're dealing with all of these crazy drunk people. And so I didn't understand why that wasn't being shared with one of the other managers, especially as a small woman. Closing is kind of difficult sometimes. Especially when you have very, very drunk people sitting at your bar. So in any case, my last episode with them, when I'd asked for not to have every weekend, and I was told that because the other manager had seniority, he got to decide, and he didn't want to work weekends. And that was it for me. I heard it. I don't know how to describe the sound. There is, what is the name of, oh my God, it's going to come back to me in a second. I can't remember her name. And I will have to think of it and put it in the comments, you guys. There's a song, and it's called My Brain Cracking. That's the sound of my brain cracking. And that's exactly how I felt. I could hear like a crack go, like right down the center of my brain. And I just remember going blank faced and like, yeah, nope, I'm done. And just that, and just saying, looking them in the face and just going, you know what, I quit, and walking out in that moment, just leaving everybody like that. And I went home. I was living with my mom at the time, crawled into my bed, which is in the room that I grew up in, and I didn't want to come out. And I did that for 3 years. I cut myself off from everybody. I didn't have a cell phone, nothing. I didn't go on the internet. I didn't leave the house really. And I was in, I mean, it's further than depression. It's a deeper dive than a depression to me, a burnout. And I spent 3 years of my life like that, in bed. And I really, honestly, you guys, like, I honestly wanted to be dead. I didn't want my mom to find my body. And that was the only reason that I think I didn't go through with it, especially towards the end. I definitely had plans. And living in a place where you're having regular suicidal ideations is not a comfortable place to be. And that's where I was when I stumbled on autism in search of a cure for my migraines. Yeah. And I got a diagnosis. And all of a sudden there was a way out of the burnout, and there was a way to do it differently, or maybe a way to do it differently so it didn't have to happen again. Suddenly the thing had a name, burnout, right? Yeah. And so that's, and I spent 3 years like that, and then autism saved my life. I don't know what would have happened if I didn't stumble upon my autism diagnosis. I don't know where I'd be right now. I'd probably be dead, I guess. And that's the truth. But yeah, there's more to life than burnout and shutdown. So how did I move on from that, right? So I took that space that I was in, and I grew with it. And I learned a lot in the last 8 years, how to keep it away, how to keep the burnout monster away. And so, one of my tips to you guys, my very first one, has to do with shutdown itself, right? Shutdown is a big old red flag that burnout is coming. Any more than one of those shutdowns in a row, and you're looking at burnout on its way. That's your body and your brain telling you that burnout is coming and you need to make a change. You need to do something differently, in whatever arena it is. I think the other stuff, we can always be on the lookout for our changes in certain things, certain regular patterns in our life, like sleep troubles, eating troubles, whether it's that you become more picky or less picky, or more hungry or less hungry. Any of those changes are really important signals. Feeling regularly tired is also one of those. It's like a sense of fatigue all the time, and that no matter how many hours you sleep, um, you still feel exhausted. And it's not exhausted, it's like drained, like fully drained. And you can manage little things, but not big things. There was a lot of shower skipping and cleaning skipping and changing clothes skipping, a lot of that, because it's just too hard after you've let yourself get there. And that burnout lived for 3 years. I don't know how much longer it would have gone. It wasn't my first, um, but it was my last. And I'm hoping that it will be my very, very last. Because now I'm looking all the time for my signals, for my triggers. And I've also made so many changes to my life so that I'm paying attention to all of my needs and all of my wants, and all of the parts of my life are feeling fulfilled and not ignored. And I'm actively working in the fight against shutdown and burnout. I'm an active participant in that fight, instead of being kind of a backseat person to that, and just a victim of burnout and shutdown, which is how it feels. You just feel like a victim of it. And I very much, I know we all have our own experiences of it, but it is the one shared experience that we all hate the most. Um, it's a terrible feeling. It's shameful feeling. We have a lot of guilt when we go through it, and a lot of stuff. But I think you can control that piece. We talk about all the things that we can do to control that piece. I talk about it all the time, every time we're together, right? What are the parts of your life that you have control over? What are the changes that you can make to your life to make those things better? Because all of those little changes added up kind of help to protect you from the shutdown and burnout. Being clear about your boundaries protects you from shutdown and burnout. Keeping them strong and staying compliant to your boundaries. Oh, that chair just fell for no reason. All of that stuff, keeps you where you want to be. And what our ideal is to kind of, we want to find that balance, right? I talk about balance all the time. We're in search of that balance. And in order to have that, we don't want to fall so far that we fall into shutdown and burnout. That's too far the other way. And we're looking for some middle ground and being present in the now. And if those are all things that we can do to kind of stave it off. A lot of the tips and tricks that I give and the ideas and thought patterns that I'm sharing with you guys are all in an effort. All of it is in an effort for a quality life. And the quality life means not having burnout, not having shutdown. That's what a quality life is like. And I want that for all of us. And so we have to sit here and share it and talk about it. And then I want to talk a little bit about kind of climbing out of burnout. I'm no expert. I certainly didn't climb out of that last one myself. It came from, help from, the catalyst. There was a catalyst from outside that started my climb out of burnout. And I think we all are we wait in burnout for that catalyst that gets us moving again. And for me, that last time, it was my autism diagnosis. But I know now if I sat in it, that couldn't come a second time. So what would I do? And I have to have those plans in place. And so I do. I really do make an effort to listen to my body, to pay attention to my triggers. My body is telling me things. My brain is telling me things. I like to do a lot of secret talking to myself through self-talk. A lot of times I figure out how I'm feeling when I start listening to my own self-talk. but I'm constantly looking for the things that set me off, that push me further, that when they are combined are a terrible combination. For example, for me, a terrible combination that would definitely cause shutdown would be like having to travel and having to travel really early in the morning, then getting there and having to do some, go right into a meeting and have to socialize and do peopling and all of that. And then, going home to sleep, getting up the next morning and doing it again, and then having to travel home. I've done those days. They will kick me into shutdown if I'm not careful. So it's knowing your limits and knowing what are the things that push you, what is too much for you, right? I know if I do too many loud, social, noisy days in a row, I'm setting myself up for a shutdown weekend, right? I can't help it. That's what happens to me. And so, thinking about that as you schedule your days and weeks and months, about planning that stuff out, and making those changes, and remembering that the actual burnout and the actual shutdown definitely don't feel like they're in our control, and pieces of them are, but not really, because we're not in control anymore. And so in an effort to avoid being there, right, we want to take care of the things that we can control, and so much more than what you think is in your control. So much more. You just have to have the desire to actually change it. You have to have the desire to do the work that it takes to get there, to try things, have them fail miserably, but then get up again and try for other things, to think briefly that you've found the trigger for yourself and then realize that you have not. It was a myth, right? Those things will happen, but you have to do the work to get there. You have to put in the foundation, the building blocks that are secure and very strong and waiting for the life to be built upon them, right? Because if our foundation isn't strong, if we don't have the basics down, anything we try to layer on top of there just isn't going to stick, and we're going to end up in shutdown. And then if we don't deal with it, eventually burnout. So that's my take. That's my take on shutdown and burnout, and how I feel about it. Things that I have found to be helpful in staving off shutdown and burnout. And little things. It's even little things like sleep hygiene. It's so weird, but all of those little things together, they make a really strong piece of armor for you to wear. And so, and I want you to have that in your life. I want you to have some experience of that. And so I hope you'll take some of what I've taught from here. I do want to spend like 2 minutes. I just want to talk about climbing out of burnout and a few things that you can do if you find yourself in burnout now. There are some things that you can do to trick your body into releasing some of its natural chemicals that start to get you up and moving a little bit. So that's happening. Bloop. Okay, so some of those things are going outside and going for a walk, going someplace that inspires you, even if it's the movies. Doing things that feel fulfilling to you. So if you're a creative person and you write music, writing music will get you out. Or even if it's not writing the music yourself and it's just listening to other musicians that write things, or their interviews, or reading, or watching their documentaries. But seek out the inspiration. Actively seek out your go-tos. Your special interests, the things that you're into, the things that you want to learn to do better. When you seek those out in burnout, you find the little sparks, and it's enough of those little sparks together, and you can start to climb out of the hole. The same goes for shutdown. You should be paying attention to your red flags, like overscheduling, feeling overtired, losing your appetite, not being able to sleep, all the things I talked about, and notice them and know that you can do something about it. And if you find yourself in shutdown, know that it's telling you need to rest, and that there's likely something you need to change in your regular life that you're trying to sustain, that it's a warning sign. Make sure you rest from it completely. Make sure you solve the problem that caused it, right? So it doesn't happen again. those are my tips for getting out. Sometimes it's as simple as exercise, and creating the endorphins from exercising. Going for that walk may not feel like something you want to do, but when you come back, you will definitely feel better, and you will feel like you've done something that day. And feeling like you've done something that day that is good for you and for your well-being is another way to trick yourself out of burnout, right? The days you sit around in burnout and don't do anything to make yourself better, or don't acknowledge your burnout, keep you there. It keeps you sick. And so what you want to do is get out. And that means dealing with the problem that you're having, whatever it may be, and figuring out how to function with it in the long term, or if you have to make a change. Yeah. So those are my thoughts on burnout, on shutdown and burnout. I really would love for us as a community to be able to figure out how to eliminate it completely. But I think until the world really changes a whole bunch, we're not going to be able to avoid it completely. But what we can do is inform ourselves about ourselves. So really get to know yourself, be comfortable in your discomfort. Like when you're feeling uncomfortable, dig in, find out why. Like, don't run away from the discomfort, dig into it and figure out where the discomfort is coming from, and if it's something you have to put up with, or if not, right? I mean, all of it is within your reach. All of it. You can make these changes. Oh, I just had a hummingbird really close to my head. It must be like right there. I felt the wind. Yeah, so that's it for me today, you guys. You know, I hope you've taken something from this. I love hanging out and sharing these thoughts. I can't wait to be able to have more of these. Let's see. What are you guys talking about in there? Yeah, autistic burnout. Yep. You thought you had a nervous breakdown, right? Because that's what they call it, but it has to be the same thing. It just has to be. There's no way. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm glad that sharing my story really helps. I mean, it was an unpleasant experience, and I for sure could go into more detail, but it's really, really depressing, but it's also very real, and very much a part of our autistic experience, and so we have to talk about it. But that's it for me today, you guys. I thank you for joining me once again on this lovely Tuesday afternoon for me, at whatever time it is for you guys. I know it's nighttime over in the UK for sure. And I'll be back on Friday with Neurodiversity Newsstand, no problem, giving you the summary of whatever news I've got on neurodiversity in the groups. And then I'll be back next Tuesday at the same time, 2:20 Mountain Standard Time, right here on this channel, doing our next live stream. Hooray! I hope today's video got you thinking. If you have other ideas for things we could talk about, please, please, please tell me in the comments. Please, please, please email me at info@beccalaurie.com. And one last plug before I go, you guys, I am so excited. I have sponsors for the course. So if you guys are interested in taking my course, it's just called Self-Defined Living, A Path to a Quality Autistic Life. Scholarships are now available. They are first come, first serve, and it'll be on a rolling basis. So as scholarships become available, I will give them away. And it will go that way into Unit 2 and Unit 3. I have my sponsors up on my website right now. So if you head to the website, you can see what the webinar is all about, all the different units, and you can register for that there. If you got the newsletter, you got your discounts. That's in there. And then, of course, if you're looking for a scholarship, please go ahead and email me at info@beccalaurie.com and let me know of your need. And I will put you on the scholarship list. That will be a rolling list, as I said, first come, first serve. Unit 1 is coming, you guys. It is literally a week from tomorrow. Can you believe it? Unit 1 comes out a week from tomorrow live. You can be there with the Q&A. If you go and register now, head over to beccalaurie.com, register, take a look at the websites, say hi to my sponsors. And if you know anybody that would be interested in sponsoring, please pass it along. That's it for me, you guys. Have a good one. I will see you next Tuesday for sure, and absolutely on Friday for Neurodiversity Newsstand. Bye.